Hey guys, good afternoon. It is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. It's great to be with you on Inspirations for Your Life. Today is Thursday. It's February 5th, and it's 2026, and I welcome you to the Inspirations for Your Life show. If it's your very first time coming here, I want to say welcome, and of course, thank you for choosing to be here. If you're coming back, I definitely want to say welcome back, and thank you for choosing to follow all this great content and make it part of your life. I really do very, very much appreciate that. And yeah, don't forget to check out believemeachieve.com for more of my, of course, amazing, inspiring creations, which you can do 24 hours a day after the show is over. If you're thirsty or hungry, I don't want you to be famished, so please feel free to go grab something, whether it's something you want to eat, something you want to drink, whether it's healthy or not. That is completely up to you. So don't forget to check believemeachieve.com later on for my short form, long form, and even articles and so much more. All right, guys. So we're talking about humility without losing power. This is series 5. It's show 6. It's episode 6. So welcome back, everyone, to the Inspirations for Your Life, the ever-popular daily motivational show. I'm your host, John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur, engineer, marketing specialist, video producer, podcast host, coach, keynote speaker, graduate student, and a passionate lifelong learner. And it is my privilege, pleasure, and honor to be here with you today. This show is all about real growth, real leadership, and real power, the kind that lasts. Today, I'm talking about a skill that quietly decides who rises and who fades into the dust. Humility without losing power. In a world that rewards volume, humility looks weak, but it isn't. Humility is strength under control. I like to call it bristled enthusiasm. It's confidence that doesn't need noise, and the most powerful people in the room aren't always the loudest. They're often the calmest. Yes. Number 2, guys, humility sharpens judgment. When ego steps aside, learning accelerates. Low ego leaders adapt faster because they're not busy defending an image, right? They listen, they observe, and they improve that ability, which compounds over time. And I know that sounds like something that's a little bit crazy, but I want to tell you that it is very important to understand that, all right? How it compounds over time. And so, number 3, guys, listening builds authority. When people feel heard, trust forms, trust multiplies, and the results speak for themselves. Leaders who listen don't lose power, they gain influence. And so calm presence stabilizes teams and creates safety. Number 4, guys, ego. We've talked about ego so many times in the past, and yet people still get confused and they get stuck with it. Ego blocks the growth. It reacts, it interrupts, and it resists feedback. Humility creates space for clarity, and calm leaders see options others miss because they're not emotionally hijacked. I think that's a very, very important thing. Quiet authority earns respect. Okay? Quiet authority earns respect. And I think that's another important one. Number 4, quiet authority earns respect. And you don't need to announce strength for it to be felt. Okay? That's an important one. And a lot of people think you've got to make a big showing on something. You really don't have to make a big showing. It's what people don't see often that causes the change. Number 5, competence speaks through consistency. Confidence without arrogance lasts longer than any hype cycle. I know a lot of you say, well, I've got to hear it. I've got to see it. Well, you got to be part of it until sometimes you can believe it. I think that's probably one of the most important things that I can, that I can share with you guys is that type of thing, is that you have to understand like what that means. And so that's an important thing that a lot of people, don't realize. Does that make sense to you? I'm hoping it does make sense, because when it makes sense, that's like now giving us the premise to move forward. All right. Number 5, guys, humility attracts mentors. People invest in those who are teachable. Grounded leaders rise because they're supported, not isolated. Power without arrogance builds loyalty. And I think that's another important thing, is that people think it should be about arrogance, but arrogance has no point. It has no place. It just causes people to get confused and causes control wars. I mean, that's the ultimate bottom truth, if I do say so myself. Number 6, guys, calm competence wins negotiations. Emotional restraint buys time, and time creates leverage. Leaders who stay composed under pressure control outcomes without force. I think that's an important one. Without force. Without force. Yeah. Number 7, guys. Humility reduces blind spots. Awareness replaces assumption, and emotional intelligence outperforms ego in every long-term environment. Business relationships and in leadership. And I think that's hard for some people to realize, that there's that pivotal shift. Okay. And that shift, again, can make us see, can make us believe, and can make us understand just, where we're going, right? Where we're going, not how we're going somewhere, but where we're going. And I think that's a very important thing to definitely understand, that's where we have to go. It's about a feeling that we get, okay? And this feeling we get is not something that, you just derive immediately, okay? It's not something you just derive immediately, but it is something that you probably will understand. And that can make a huge, huge, huge difference. Knowing these steps, knowing what's happening, knowing how you grow. These are all important things. But for some reason, we get lost in the weeds. And that kind of deters us, doesn't it? Number 8, guys, strength doesn't announce itself. Skill remains when ego fades. The quiet builder outlasts the loud performer, because discipline always beats display. A lot of us say, "Oh, I want to show what I do. I want to like brag about everything." But why do you need to brag? Like, what's the real reason that you need to brag? And that comes down to an ego, right? The fact that we've got to make something seem more important than what it really is. I think that's the real truth there. Humility stabilizes success. It protects progress from sabotage and burnout, of course. Power feels lighter when ego isn't carrying it. That's right. When it's not carrying it, it causes a very, very big, big difference. All right. A very, very big difference. Confidence without noise earns credibility, and grounded success lasts because it's built on trust, not attention. Humility protects momentum and will always sharpen the focus. It will always sharpen the focus. I think that's really I think that's really an important thing that most people they don't gather, they don't understand. And that's important to know. It's important to know that you have more power than you think you have. You have more power than you think you have. Wow. That's mind-blowing is what it is, to be honest. It's absolutely, absolutely mind-blowing. I think when we have a chance to realize what's going on and rationalize it, our perspectives, well, they often change. So this is the new power skill: calm leadership, emotional control, and humility that basically doesn't shrink you. It really strengthens you. And maybe you're saying to me, John, I want this, but maybe I'm scared. Maybe I don't necessarily understand why that is. Why that is. And that why could just be, well, it could be just you scared of moving forward. That's interesting, right? It's you scared of moving forward. I think that's a very important thing to understand. Okay. And when we understand these things, our world starts to shift. Our world starts to shift. And when our world shifts, it's like we suddenly become a person that is different in a lot of different ways. And that can cause some people to run for the hills. I think sometimes people don't necessarily understand things. And the reason they don't understand things is they're confused. Okay? They're confused. And that confusion causes people to go into, well, hibernation. It's like they suddenly can't do anything. Not because they don't want to, but because they become stunted, right? Maybe you're working on something and suddenly you're tired. You have to take a break. You can't be up 24 hours a day. You get my point. You have to take a break at some time, right? You're drinking all this water, you're eating. You have to use the restroom at some time. You can't not do that, just like you can't not have a break. If you want influence that endures, lead with humility and execute with confidence. Confidence is a word that I think is it's a very interesting word. And I want to recall it back to a post that I recently made. Many of you commented on the post. And it was, I've always believed good genes say a lot. Comfort, collection, right? But really it comes down to this. I've always believed good genes say a lot. Comfort, confidence, and showing up as yourself. Let me say that again. I've always believed good genes say a lot. Comfort, confidence, and showing up as yourself. I'm an engineer by trade and a lot of other things, and I'm easygoing by nature. And so if you're somebody that enjoys those type of things, I love having conversations with people. It's about this dynamic of getting to know who people are and why people act the way they do. If people are acting the way they do because of an ego, it's probably not somebody you want to be hanging with. If people act the way they do because they want to do something and they want to help others, that's different. Right? And that means a lot to people. That means a lot. Because if you understand one thing, just one thing differently than you did yesterday, you can already become a better person. That's what I said. One thing. I didn't say a million things. I said one thing. If you could just change one thing in your life, one thing, you'll start walking in happiness. And if you could change one thing a week, you'd get better, right? Maybe 1% better. But doing nothing doesn't get us to become any better. It gets us to either be stagnant or even to go backwards. I believe we have to keep learning every single day of our life. This is the most important thing I want to share with you. I believe you should learn every single day of your life. Every day you're breathing, you should be learning. Now, some people think I'm nuts for saying that, but it's the absolute truth. It's the absolute truth. And that truth is something that a lot of people don't realize. They don't realize it because of a subtlety. And if we can just pivot, maybe even a micro turn or a micro fraction, right? It can get us further from zero. So let me see if I can explain this. Think of a knob and think of a potentiometer as the knob, right? So let's say you start at 0 and I turn that knob just a fraction, okay? I still got a little better than 0. I do it again, I do it again, I do it again. It compounds and I keep getting more. Eventually I reach the final point. But keep doing it every day gets it to work. It's that motivation that we build from ourselves, not the ones that other people build for us. Because the ones that other people build are nice, but they're not the be-all, end-all. Do you know what I mean? They're not the be-all, end-all. That's probably the most important thing that I can share with you is it's not the be-all, end-all. It's not the be-all, end-all. And the be-all, end-all is something that a lot of people, like, they think that's the way they have to be, okay? But if you could just understand that it can change you. And that change can give you a very big perspective. Now, when I talked about a potentiometer, the thing about a potentiometer is that, let's say it was a digital potentiometer, and you turn it up. I'll use a perfect example. I'll use Focusrite, which we use professional recording and creation tools for microphones, etc. So when we turn the input up just a little bit, if it's a fraction, and we keep turning. But if we stop our power, if we suddenly decide we don't want to do anymore, it's like the plug being pulled. And then we're back at 0. We got to go, and we lost all that momentum. That's what you do to yourself when you keep going, and then suddenly you say, oh, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore, right? I don't want to do that anymore. That's a very interesting thing, guys. Very interesting thing. Something that I feel many people don't really pay attention to. And I'm not going to say it's because they don't want to. I'm going to say it's because maybe they're confused. Does that make sense? I think that can make a difference. Difference doesn't necessarily come immediately. But like I was sharing that example of the potentiometer, it's a digital potentiometer. So most potentiometers, they stay that way until, you change the knob. But all the potentiometers that make real change in life are digital now. And so if you keep making changes little bit by little bit every day, but if you stop, okay, and our eyes stopping would mean pulling the power. Pulling the power and stopping means you got to start all over from the beginning again. And that might sound like something that's pretty awesome, right? It might sound like that, but is it like that? I think it's like that in a way because we suddenly don't necessarily get why we're doing something, but we learn through the process. We learn through the process. How about you? But I think that's wild. If we can learn through the process and we change things that we can measure. If we can't measure something, then we never can change things. Pretty wild, isn't it? So thinking about that digital potentiometer, I think about you making gradual changes, even they're tiny changes. Eventually, that knob is going to get to the end, your success. But if you stop, it's like yanking the power. And then you've got to start all the way from the beginning. You got to start all the way again, and you've lost whatever momentum that you built. That blows my mind. How we can make those very interesting changes, right? Very interesting changes. Being aware of your surroundings, changing your perspective. Because when you do this, you alter the way things become for you. Okay? And that's pretty cool. That's really cool. But I know people get scared. I know people just stop. Why? Because I don't know. I come up with a million excuses as to why. And that itself has its own way. I think what we're really going after is the fact that change can happen even when it's on a slow scale. Even when it's on a slow scale. So I've said to you before, if you can measure something, we can make it happen. So if your why is not loud enough, you're not going to go anywhere. If your why is not loud enough, then that's why you're not going somewhere. I don't mean loud. I mean the mission. I mean the purpose for what you stand for. That's the real thing, guys. That's the real thing. And so, like we think about that potentiometer, right? You could keep putting in effort, right? A little bit each day. Then suddenly you tell yourself, I'm not enough. I can't do this. Or you start giving yourself negative affirmations. And before you know it, you're back at zero or negative zero. Zero is when You just have to get positive. When it's, let's say, less than 0, it's worse than 0, because now you've got to undo all the programming that said you're a 0. Now you might be negative 15 or negative 100. It's harder to undo the programming than it is to take you from nothing up the ladder. That's why it's hard for a lot of people. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for choosing to listen to me or watch me today on the Inspirations for Your Life show. For more information and inspirations, please visit believemeachieve.com. You'll get my short form content, my long form content, articles, and so much more, guys. So definitely check that out. But I want you to think about your life as a digital potentiometer. If you can do that, and if you can realize that if you keep moving, you keep moving, you keep moving, and as long as you keep moving every day a little bit, you'll always be able to keep moving and keep growing. But if you stop, the power gets yanked. And now it's twice as hard to get back to the top. Let's think of an analogy. Maybe you're trying to teach somebody how to sing, right? And they're doing okay. And then they're doing better. But then suddenly somebody says, oh, you can't sing. You can't hold a tune. The person feels like crap. And they start believing they're a terrible singer. And guess what happens? Stress, voice crackling, and yup, they now start losing confidence and don't even want to open their mouth to sing, only to talk. And sometimes they don't want to talk because they're so worried about opening their mouth and what it's going to do and what's going to happen when something comes out. They're now going to be judging themselves because somebody that had no right to judge them threw a stone at their glass house. And I'll say what it says in the biblical reading. Don't throw stones at glass houses, because you know what? You live in a glass house too. Their house is breakable and so is yours. So don't throw stones at glass houses. People that throw stones at glass houses are those that have big egos. I've met some of them. Some of them appear to be so successful, but not really. They may have one part of their life, a relationship or money, but they don't have the other, and they don't have balance. And they're actually miserable, and they hate their life. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. Do check out believemeachieve.com. And remember, humility without losing power is one of the big keys for success. Have a great one, everyone, and be well.